I could probably figure out a place to put treatment tables if I only have to spend $200 for them. So I was like, all right, show me where they are. Let's go. And I then reached out to a strength and conditioning coach close by who I had developed a relationship through mutual patients and things like that.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I am your host, as always, Krista Gurka, and I have a guest episode today, which I'm really excited about. We have Laura Sommer here, who is a doctor of physical therapy. I think everyone's a doctor of physical therapy. I might be the only one left that's not a doctor of physical therapy, but she graduated from Northeastern, amazing school. And she's the owner of In Motion Physical Therapy, which was open in May 2013. And that is where exactly is it in New York?
We are on Long Island.
Long Island. That's what I thought. What part of Long Island?
So we're right on the border of Nassau and Suffolk County. So right in the middle, we're in Farmingdale.
Okay, perfect. So she is the mother of 3 young kids. She has twins that are about to be 2 or just turned 2?
2 tomorrow.
Okay, 2 years old and a 4-year-old, and navigating motherhood, wifehood, womanhood, and businesshood is basically what we're going to chat about today. Laura, thank you so much for joining me. And why don't you give us a little bit more about who you are, what it is you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So my name's Laura Sommer. I am a doctor of physical therapy. I graduated from Northeastern University back in 2011 now. I played collegiate soccer there as well. And after graduation, I knew that I wanted to open a business. I know a lot of people fall into businesshood. Our senior year for capstone, when we took our business class, I was with 4 of my best friends from PT school. We had to design this business plan. And I said, guys, can we please do it for me? And they were all on board. We designed this business plan, basically almost what has happened with my business. And I worked at a mill for 2 years, really just to get my feet on the ground. I specifically picked a certain location because I knew I had connections in the area. And then an opportunity fell into my lap that I couldn't turn down. So I did not expect to open my business when I was 25 years old, but looking back on it, I'm glad that I did because it only gets harder. So I only have more responsibility now than I did back then. I was only responsible for myself. So I opened my business in 2013. I was inside of a strength and conditioning facility. I was in the birthday party room. I had 3 different color walls. There was a blue wall, a yellow wall, a green wall. We had no heat, no air conditioning. It was like bare bones. And that's where In Motion Physical Therapy was born. About a year later, I moved into the location that I'm in now. And we've been in business for 10 years now, as of May. So
it's amazing. That's amazing. That kudos to you. There's not the percentage of businesses that make it out of the first 2 years is actually pretty small. And then the percentage of business that make it a decade are it's a really small percentage. So kudos to you while raising children and going through the pandemic and everything. Being in New York is pretty crazy. So there's a couple of things that you actually said that I thought was really interesting that I think we should dive into. One is you said you knew you wanted to own a business. So what kind of brought that about? Was it modeled? Are your parents, family, and entrepreneurs? So how did that come about?
Yes. So my dad has owned his own businesses for really as long as I can remember. There was a short period of time when I was in maybe middle school or high school that he did work for someone else and he absolutely hated it. And then he figured out a way to open another business. He runs 2 businesses right now. So I definitely had that modeled for me. My grandfather owned his own business. My grandfather was born in Germany, came here during the Holocaust, and as an immigrant really was able to open up his own business, which was really an inspiring story. And then my dad really followed in that path as well. And then that's what
That's interesting. Yeah.
I knew I always wanted to work for myself and to do things my way. Um,
And so as a child, so I'm just curious, like how this also then translates to our children. So I did not, let's say, not really in my family did I have that. My father's a social worker. My mom was a like jack of all trades. She was a CNA for a while. Then she worked for American Airlines. She was like an office manager because my mom never went to college. But my uncle was a physician. And it is interesting to see, I guess physicians do own their own business because it's their practice. So my uncle was a physician, but I'm curious, what resonates with you? What do you remember being young, growing up in the house from parents or from your dad and then your grandfather that owned their own business? Do you remember the thoughts you had about that?
I don't know. I was around enough that when my dad was having conversations with people and selling his services, because he runs a soccer training organization now, and he also sells monuments, which are two very
Yeah.
different things, but it works.
Yeah.
And before that, he owned an auto part stores, the business that my grandfather had started. So I don't remember specifically what really resonated with me, but my parents were great role models for I'm the oldest of four siblings. So all of us really had great role models to look up to. My mom is a nurse, and my parents made it work. They figured out how to raise four kids and
yeah,
just
and times were very different back then. I'm the oldest of four also. And I'm a physical therapist. And interestingly enough, the bookend, my youngest sister, who's significantly younger than, she's 15 years younger than I am, is also a physical therapist.
Oh, no way.
However, she doesn't practice. She ended up going into like biomedicine. And so it's really interesting. So anyways, so the second thing that you said that I thought was really interesting was that you had a business course in PT school. So tell me a little bit about that and what did that course entail? Because most schools, at least my program, had a business elective, and it was the most bare bones. I think it was taught from the 1970s. So I'm interested to hear what your business class was actually like.
Yeah, so it was a summer class. So with Northeastern, we went to school all year long for this, like straight through 6 years, because we did 2 co-op rotations where you actually work and get paid. And in Massachusetts, they built it into the PT law that you're able to do a lot more than what a typical aide is able to do. So it was a summer class, and I remember it being a little bit more than bare bones. We had to do a whole SWOT analysis. We had a 20-page business plan that we had to hand in at the end of the semester. So we worked in groups, and I just remember thinking, this is what I want to do. This is it. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen or how it's going to come about, but I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Great. Yeah, definitely more than mine. I think my class, I remember the professor, and it literally was like, this is what fixed costs are. This is what variable costs are. And that's it. And back also, I went to school in the 1900s. So there was no cash-based PT at that time, or if it was like super niche and nobody was even thinking concierge at that point. So everything we had was modeled about insurance-based practices, right? And there's no sales tactics because doctors refer to you, right? So it was basically like bring lunch to people and things like that. So you, interestingly enough, have an insurance-based model that is really successful and lucrative. So let's reverse back to 2013 when you were going to open your business, when you did open your business. And you said you were in the birthday room, which I think is great. Listen, a lot of people, like when we start businesses, it's one of the things that I try to really advise new business owners. Yeah, glass looks beautiful and like beautiful floors look great, but that's not selling services. And so what happens to a lot of businesses, I think we bite off a little more than we can chew because of how it looks, right? And then what we think in our head that means about us, that says about us. So when you're going in, you go into this gym. Can you tell us a little bit about what you put in to start the business? Meaning, what was your startup fund look like? Mine was $2,400, so it really wasn't a lot. And what did that first year look like to you?
Yeah. So I think my startup fund was $400.
Got me beat.
And then so the way this started, I was at my company holiday party, and one of the other PTs was talking about how he had treatment tables that he knew someone was selling them, and they were $200 each. And I was like, I could probably figure out a place to put treatment tables if I only have to spend $200 for them. So I was like, all right, show me where they are. Let's go. And I then reached out to a strength and conditioning coach close by who I had developed a relationship through mutual patients and things like that. And I reached out and I said, hey, do you have a space where I could put these 2 treatment tables? I'm thinking of dipping my toes in the water. So he said, absolutely. He said, how does $50 a day sound? And I said, that sounds amazing. And so basically, if I treated one person, it was worth it for me to be there. My first 2 patients were his 2 coaches that worked for him. One of the guys actually happened to be training to try and make it into the NFL. So it was a great place to start. I kind of brought some of my contacts over. Again, I mentioned how my dad's in soccer, so I was actually coaching soccer for him at the time as well. So I had a lot of people come in through that route. And as soon as I got started, I started with 1 day a week. All of a sudden I was up to 2 days a week. And before I knew it, I was at 3 days a week that I was treating patients for maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. So I was working home care in the morning. So that way I had a full-time job. And then what I was doing is I was basically taking everything from the business and just reinvesting it back into it. So basically I didn't even need to touch that salary. I didn't need to worry about health insurance. I didn't need to worry about any of that. And I just worked my butt off for that first year, and grew it into something that was a little bit more legitimate.
Yeah. So that was my question. I was thinking while you were saying that, what was the other place you were working at? And I was like, were they cool with you just being like, hey, I need another day off. I need another day off. So you were doing home health, which is like a contracted role, correct?
Then there's no conflict of interest because it was all Medicare B, or it was a Medicare A. I'm sorry. It was Medicare A. So it was like doing Oasis and all that jazz. And I was treating athletes, 13-year-olds on the side on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday after I finished my day of home care.
Yeah. And for those of you that are not physical therapists that might be listening to this, home care was, and still is for some people, a great way to buffer that if you're trying to do a side hustle or trying to do something a little bit on the side, because it's not as, oh, your hours are 9 to 5 and you go in and here's your caseload, right? A lot of people were doing home care. And I even remember when I came out of school, home care was a big thing too, because they were paying a lot of money at the time. And usually you're a contract employee. And so they just are like, if you do, I don't know, this amount of hours, and you can make your own schedule, you call the clients and tell them when you're going to come. So home care is a really great way for some people to get some income and then have a little bit more flexibility to do their side hustle or whatnot. And just like you said, there's no conflict of interest. There's no, hey, Krista, I know I work for you, but can I go take 2 other days off and then see my clients over here? Which sometimes it works, but it's a little more difficult to navigate that kind of a situation, right? I never did home care because I think I did one home care client and I got sent to the worst neighborhood ever. And I didn't know where I was going. And I think I cried in my car and I was like, I just can't. And not only did I wasn't just worried for like myself, but I was sad. I was just sad in general. Like I was sad that this person had a total knee replacement that was definitely not set up for the way that they had to live. They were alone. I was just sad. And I was like, at 24 years old, I just was not equipped to handle. I also be perfectly honest, I was like, I was not equipped to handle it. So maybe now it'd be different. But anyways, I digress. Let's then talk about, okay, fast forward. Like that first year is a grind, but at the same time, you're an example of that it's doable, right? If you just think, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it just grew organically. It was like, and this is why I think also being a good therapist is important, because if you sucked as a therapist, people wouldn't come back to you. When people are like, hey, I'm going to start this, I'm like, that's great, but be just really good at what you're doing. You don't have to be top, but you have to have something, whether that's your connection with people, that's a superpower. Even if your skills are not the same as other people, right? Your ability to understand, your ability to anticipate, your ability then to give your client a win, right? Like, how do you give them one win to get them buy-in and keep coming back? So what is the timeline, the decision that makes you realize, okay, this is it, I'm going all in? So how did that transpire?
So it took a little bit longer. So I continued to work this crazy schedule where I was doing home care, treating patients, and also coaching soccer.
Oh, wow.
And my boyfriend, now husband, basically said, you cannot do this anymore. You are running yourself into the ground. I appreciate your work ethic, but you have to make a decision. And it had gotten to the point we were engaged, and I think we were getting married in September. I think in like January, I was said, all right, I'm done. I'll do Cobra for my health insurance. I'm quitting my home care job and I'm going all in on the business. And that's what I ended up doing. So it took us to get to a breaking point where I might have had a mental breakdown or two. He really pushed me and said, what are you doing? You have a successful business. You need to make a decision. You can't do this to yourself anymore.
Yeah.
And that's really what forced the issue.
What do you think was your biggest fear about doing that? So if you can take yourself back to that time, what were you scared of?
I guess I was scared of failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was scared that I'm going to commit to this and then all the patients are going to disappear, which is crazy. They weren't going anywhere. But it was just like, can I afford to pay for my own health insurance? Can I afford to not have a paycheck that I know is coming in? I didn't necessarily put myself on payroll for quite some time, that I was just taking distributions from the business. It was just more fear of, how do I do this? How do I make this a legitimate business? Am I really doing this?
Yeah.
And
which is a legitimate fear. It's a
Mhm.
legitimate, like leaving a stable paycheck that was coming in all the time is scary. So you have children. I equate it to, if we continue, if we keep tying our shoes for our kids, they don't ever learn, could they tie their shoes? Sure. But they're like, mom's going to do it. And so sometimes having that little stability from a mindset reframe, having that stable job is a little bit of a security blanket. It's, if this doesn't go well, I always have this job. But the reverse of that is like, it will never grow and blossom because you don't give it all of your energy. And so you're always going to be in that thing of, I don't think it's going to work. Because see, I always say, you will find the evidence you're looking for in the universe. So if you think in the back of your head that this won't be successful, you're going to find evidence of that. Whether 2 patients cancel this week and you're like, see, that's what's going to happen. My schedule is going to be open, right? And that is the evidence that we talk ourselves out of making decisions. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Also, another contributing factor to this is I had 6 figures in student loan debt.
Yeah,
So,
huge,
which
scary.
was crushing. And it's a double-edged sword. I think I opened my business because I had that debt. And I said, what? I can probably make more money as a business owner than I can as a staff employee. So let me take this risk and see how it works out. And then I was chipping away at my debt, and I was like, I just want this to be gone. And it was a mindset thing of just having that steady paycheck, but I needed to let that go in order to commit fully into my business, to allow it to grow into what it would eventually become.
Yeah, you did an amazing job. And that student loan debt is real. I'm 25 years out of school and I'm still paying my student loan debt back. It's crazy. And every year I have this conversation with my husband. I'm like, we should just pay it down. I think it's down to $30,000 right now. Like, it's not that much. And we pay very little per month. But it's like, you could write off the interest on our taxes every year. We keep everything else clean. Like, we don't carry credit card debt. And if we have a little, we're putting away for retirement. We have 2 fully funded college funds for our kids. So to be honest, I'd just rather put the extra money towards our retirement and let it build for us and pay the $200 a month. But it still is crazy. I think my kids are going to graduate from college debt free, and I'm still going to be paying off my loans. But it is a scary amount. It's a scary amount. So I get that. And I never want to impose, I don't know what everyone's personal financial situations are. And so I think it's really important to think of that. I am not a believer of burn the ships and let's burn the bridges and you can't get back and all that stuff, because what if you are a single parent, right? And need that? What if your partner or family that you support is ill? I don't know what people's things are. So there could be, but I don't think it also has to hold people back. You can plan and do things like what you said, work part-time and then grow your business on the weekends, in the evenings, one night a week, whatever that may be. So let's fast forward now, full-time in your business. Okay. How long does it stay just you in your business?
From that January, maybe 6 months, I hired my first full-time employee, like
Okay,
full-time PT. I already had an office administrator working for me. Yeah,
okay.
My first hire were my sisters. That when
Love
they were
it.
in high school and college, I hated the administrative stuff. I can't stand it. I don't like dealing with insurances. I do it as a way to just serve my patient population, but I knew from the beginning that it just drains me. So I've always had somebody do that stuff for me.
Awesome. That's so
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And so what was the kind of lead up to saying, I need to hire another PT?
We were so busy.
Yeah. And how did that happen? So was that mostly word of mouth? So let's backtrack just a little bit for some people. Like, you were insurance based from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So how did you navigate that process of getting accredited and credentialed with certain insurances?
With most insurances, we are out of network, but we do submit bills on our patient's behalf.
Got it.
And then only if the numbers make sense do we sign a contract with an insurance company. It's not many. We do accept Medicare, and we do accept a few of more New York state-based insurances that like teachers, doctors, firefighters, people who work for the state.
People that actually get good pensions.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And have great healthcare benefits, but their insurance doesn't pay great, but I view it more as they're serving their community. I want to be able to serve them as well. And that's purely a decision on my end that I feel is important.
My parents and my in-laws were both state of New York employees forever. So my parents were social workers for the state of New York, and then my in-laws were teachers for the state of New York. And obviously from that age group, they got like phenomenal pensions, all of them. So kudos, they don't exist anymore, but anyways, good for you.
And then we take people's out of network benefits. We submit the bills on their behalf. And then because we have so many student athletes, they then have secondary insurance if they get injured at the school. Basically, we're able to just submit to their insurance. If they don't have out of network or it's not covered or whatever it is, we submit to the school insurance and we get reimbursed through that. So it does take longer, obviously, to get paid. But again, it's a risk that I'm willing to take because the payout in the end is better.
So do you then do out of network billing? So
yes.
You get the out of network, you get like that full. Now, does the patient pay up front and then you bill, or how does that work in your facility?
No, so we bill on their behalf.
Got it.
And they pay their co-insurance.
Perfect. Okay. So you accept what the out of network fee, like reimbursement is. Okay. How long on average is the pay? So you say it takes a little longer. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about months, weeks? How long does that happen?
Depends on the insurance company.
Right.
So anywhere from a month to 6 months with some secondary insurances, just because we have to get that primary claim back. And then we have to submit it to the secondary. A lot of them we have to send paper because we need all the notes and everything with it as well.
Yep.
So it does take a little bit longer.
Okay. So let's talk about who's on your team currently. So let's talk, besides you, who makes up your team at InMotion?
Yeah, so we have an amazing team right now. It has taken us a while to get to this point, but we have an absolutely amazing team. So I have my office manager, and she's full-time. I have a full-time PT, and then I have a few support staff. So we have a front desk part-time person, and then we have two, you can call them aides. They're PT students who help us in the back to really just give better patient care, that they're able to go grab stim pads and ice packs, and they wipe down equipment, and they really just hang out with the patient, build that relationship with them, and they're able to work on a lot of their softer skills, and in just an environment where they're constantly learning too.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Like, they're learning, they're interested in it, and it's great. And then who does your billing? Is that someone on your office manager?
My office manager takes care of the billing, yes.
Okay. So at this current stage, how many client or patient facing hours are you doing at this current stage right now?
Right now, I'm treating patients about 15 hours a week.
Okay. And your full-time PT is?
She's 36, treating for 36 hours.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is
and
great.
her schedule is full. So
which is why you're hiring.
Which is why we're hiring.
Correct. Awesome. And let's talk about what has transpired this year for you. So let's talk a little bit about because you have 2-year-old twins. So between 2020 and now, let's talk about between 2020 and January of 20. So from like March of 2020 to January of 2023, what was your life business like? You had a baby, basically, a toddler.
So I had a 18-month-old when COVID started. My husband worked in a role where he needed to go into the office every day. And I worked in a role where I needed to go into the office every day. So to say that it was stressful was an understatement. March of 2023, we were on pace to have our best year ever. And that came to a screeching halt. So basically what I did as a business owner is I sent everyone home besides my front desk and me. So she was all the way up in the front behind plexiglass, all by herself. I was all the way in the back in the treatment area, and I was the only one treating patients. I did Monday through Friday. I did telehealth at night. I burnt myself out, but we needed to figure out childcare because daycare was shut down. So I was home with my daughter in the morning. My parents did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My husband came home from work on Tuesday, Thursday, and even though he wasn't supposed to work from home, that's what we needed to do because otherwise we didn't know what to do. We had to be so careful with COVID because our parents are older and we're taking care of our daughter, and just the level of stress that was associated with that was overwhelming. And then fast forward when I kept the business in business. We survived that time period, but I was working myself to the bone. we got to the point where I was able to hire someone, and it was just like, okay, masking, do it, like wiping everything down. Like, we're fine now, let's go. I was able to hire a PT again, another full-time PT. And then I had a lot of personal things go on that were like rocked my world. And then January of 2021, we found out we were pregnant with twins. I was like,
universe, what are you doing?
Like, we've just been thrown like this shitstorm of a year, and now we're pregnant with twins. Okay. Like, how do we figure this out? And being pregnant with twins was very challenging, much more physically challenging than the first time around. And the first time around,
and you have a toddler.
And I have a toddler. And I'm running a business, and we're trying to recover from COVID. And this is not how I planned it. And I'm a planner. If things don't go as planned, I don't like that. I like having control in this whole 2-year period, or however long it was. I had to let go. And I had to just accept what it was. I already had a full-time PT, but I was like, I can't treat up until the end. I did with my first. I literally treated, and I'm not proud of this, and my husband was so mad at me. I treated the day that I went to the hospital to get induced with my daughter. He was like, you are so stupid. And I was like, what am I going to do? Sit at home and be anxious? Like, I'd rather just go.
I did the same thing. I was like, I had gained like 65 or 70 pounds. So I was pushing 200 pounds. And so I would just lay my son, like third leg, like on my belly. I literally I went to the doctor that day, and they're like, yep, baby's coming. Let's take you to the hospital. And I was like, I'm not coming back to work tomorrow. But you're right. What are we going to do? At the time, you don't have another baby at home. So you're just like, okay, I'm going to sit at home and you're right. Am I going to sit at home and twiddle my thumbs? And so I got to do something. I agree with you. I feel you.
But the second time around, I could not. I could barely move. Like, sitting was painful. So I knew I had to hire someone else. So I ended up hiring someone part-time, and it worked out perfectly that she was a new grad, and she graduated in the height of COVID, and she didn't so she had just been like doing continuing education stuff, but didn't know where she wanted to work. And then she saw this job posted, and she actually used to play soccer with my youngest sister. And it just all worked out that she was looking for something part-time, and we grew it into a full-time position. And then I had my twins, and that first year with them, when I say I don't remember what happened unless I look at pictures, unless like I have things written down. I like blacked out because it was just absolutely crazy. We had 3 kids under 3. It was absolute insanity. And the business started to fall apart a little bit because I couldn't be there. I couldn't do things that I wanted to do. I was getting really frustrated with myself. One of the full-time PTs actually left and took another position, which was good because I couldn't keep 2 PTs on payroll because our census had dropped. And I slowly started to work myself back in, but I knew that I could not go back to doing what had made us successful in the past. I couldn't go back to just grinding it out and working myself to the bone. That was not the reason why I opened my business. And I knew in my heart, that's not what I could do. And I was trying to figure things out, and maybe got to September, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know what's going on, why I'm not finding success. And that's when I just started looking out. Maybe I need someone's guidance. Maybe I need like a group of people. I had joined like a twin mom group after we had our twins. And I found that to be so helpful that like you have these other 6 or 7 moms who are going through the same exact thing that you are, that really not many other people in this world can understand. And they're going through it at the same time with you. Right. And I need that for my business, because what was COVID, right? What was this rebuild, it was just so hard. And I need to find other people who have been going through the same things, and not just a coach who's like, oh, it's so easy. Just do this, just hire, just do this marketing, and you have 1 million patients in your door. And I was just, this is not how life works. Who are you selling this to? Because that's not real life.
Yeah. Totally.
And after some searching, I found you, and I looked through some things, and I was like, this is the person. She is like 10 years ahead of 15 years ahead of what I'm doing. She's been there, she's done that. Why don't I ask for some help? And I've found it like obviously tremendously helpful, because now we're back in a position where our business is profitable again, and
Which is
we're
amazing.
looking to hire again, and we're looking to do all these things. And the most important thing is that I'm only treating 10 to 15 hours a week.
Which is great. Which is that's the goal, right? Yes, our goal is to be profitable and our goal is to help people, certainly. But that's not sustainable if you are the one that's doing everything in the business. And then what I want women to understand is, yes, we're great at what we do in the clinic, right? We're amazing practitioners. But we have a whole other world that relies on us for things too. And now this is a total generalization. I don't have any proof of this, but I think men are better able to compartmentalize things than women are. And I think maybe sometimes that's a plus and sometimes it's a minus. And I have a husband who is super supportive of my career, like very supportive of my career, and knows that I'm an amazing physical therapist. Like he's always, go see Krista. I don't understand why you would not do that. However, he is much better able to compartmentalize when things are stressed at work versus at home. I have a harder time because I also, as a business owner, I bring sometimes my work home with me, meaning like thinking about things. And so I think it's hard to completely disconnect. You've got your kids and you've got being a wife and you've got being a friend and being a daughter and being a sister. And there's so many things that we're a whole world of things. And it's really hard, I think, for us to compartmentalize that, which just compounds our stress. And then in our head, we're like, I'm a shit mom because I work too much. And I'm a shit boss because like I'm a lunatic at work and I'm not being good for my patients. And those are the thoughts that go through our head. And they're wrong. We're amazing, but we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially those of us that are high achievers, which are usually business owners. And so we're always finding evidence of where we're failing instead of finding evidence of what we're succeeding at. We are providing being great role models to our children, right? We are fabulous spouses to our partners, right? We are great clinicians. We are providing a place to work for individuals to live out their dreams. We're impacting our community. But for some reason, our X chromosome, 2X, extra X chromosome, gives us this whacked out neural plasticity in our brain that's always looking for evidence of where we're failing. And so you're right, being in a group of women that's, oh, I'm doing this too, or I'm going through that too, or it's really hard. We just had somebody in our group, Laura's in our FitBiz Foundations program, and we had someone in the group share with us that unfortunately she experienced another miscarriage. And that is nothing to do with business, but obviously it will affect her business. And being able to share that in a group full of women, I don't have personal experience with a miscarriage myself personally, but I've known many friends that have had and relatives, and we can all empathize with what that would feel like for us. And so I think it was helpful even just to have that to say, I'm lost, I'm stuck. And a bunch of people could say, that's okay. Let's give yourself the permission to say, you know what? I need to take a beat right now and not think, oh, I'm letting someone down by choosing us first. You've made a tremendous amount of progress in just the short time of 2023, but that's a testament to you just doing the work, like seeing a problem, right? Okay, this is not running efficiently. What are my options? And instead of just saying not doing it, you just do it. And then you get to the next step and you get to the next step, and just having that framework where you could break down, this is step one, this is step two, This is step 3. Laura has an insurance-based practice, but she still has started to run some programs that are cash-based incentives. And even though she does out-of-network billing with a lot of insurances, which is great, right? So you just shared with us in the group yesterday, what goal did you, or not, I don't even know if you had set it as a goal, but what did you hit in July that totally surprised you? Because summer's usually really slow for most of us.
Yeah, we were at 100% utilization.
Which is amazing. Amazing. Most of the time, most of our businesses are like, okay, we take a big dip. So we look at our numbers and we're like, let's not have a lot of big expenses in July or August, because usually our census is a little lower. But her practice, and then she took vacation. She was able to go away with her family. And now she's back and going to be preparing for back to school, which is a transition too, especially when you're working with athletes, because some go to college, but then you get some teams that are coming back through. What kind of changed in this year that allowed you to run your practice a little more efficiently and sustainable, that you don't feel like a chicken with your head cut off?
It's a good question. I think it was having a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I had a plan, and the biggest part of the plan that was helpful for me was not tying it to an outcome.
That's so smart.
It was doing the work. It was, okay, we lost a ton of referral sources during COVID because so many of the gyms in the area went out of business. So 4 or 5 of the gyms that were close by were no longer. So I had to develop these new relationships. So what I started doing in January was, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to put stuff out there into the universe. I'm going to plan this event. And it wasn't what the outcome of the event was. It wasn't if the person got back to me. That I did not tie that to myself. When in the past I would have, oh, I must not be good enough that this didn't work out. No, it was, I'm just going to reach out. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and whatever happens from that. And just the more stuff I threw against the wall, a lot of it started to stick. So we started to develop these new relationships in the community again. And I think that's a huge thing that really helped turn our business around, because we had to start from scratch in some ways again, that our word of mouth from current patients kept us afloat, but I wasn't getting the influx of patients from our referral sources. So I needed to figure out a new way to do that again.
Yeah, for sure. I think all businesses, I say it's like BC, before COVID, and then like after COVID, because our business too, we had to regroup. What are clients looking for now? What things are different? What are staff people looking for now? Hiring has been a huge disconnect. Prices went up. So yes, we had to raise prices too, but when I look at my electric bill now, it's through the roof. And those are little things that sometimes people, if they're not paying really attention to their P&Ls, you're like, I don't understand. My numbers, my sales are up, but I don't see my profit going up. It's because electricity like more than doubled. Property insurance. We just got our property insurance bill. It doubled from last year. Okay, so there's all these little things that are not direct costs of labor, but like our wipes went up. Everything we order, from a lot of things from a lot of equipment, or the little chockies with TheraBand, like all this kind of stuff. Delivery costs certainly went up. Everything is going up, right? And so we have to now look at our businesses in a way of like, how can we operate efficiently and profitably post-COVID? And if we have to raise our prices, then what do we have to do to our messaging in order to like make that happen? How do we make new connections? So like you said, removing your relationship with the outcome is really smart. And that's why you're going to be uber successful no matter what, because you've made that transition to say, what I can control is my action and showing up. So if I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to meet with that soccer coach. This is what I'm going to do. I have a plan. I'm going to meet with them. I have a follow-up. Because once is never, right? You have some sort of follow-up. And then maybe they work with you, maybe they don't, but you did what your job was, which is to meet with that person, versus now thinking in your head, I did a sucky presentation, or no, you did your job. Your job is to make the connection. Their job is to choose to work with you. And so that's super smart. And doesn't it feel better? And then you're just like, okay, what's the next binary step that I'm going to take? And by the way, sometimes it's not now, but sometimes it could be 6 months from now. Somebody could reach back out and be like, hey, I know we lost touch, but I'm really ready to do it now. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with continuing to reach out. Like you work with athletes, I work with athletes. So I have a bunch of NBA players and I have no qualms texting them. Like sometimes they'll ghost me and I'm like, hey, are you back in town? You want to get in? They're like, yeah, how about when? And then it'll go 2 days. They won't text me back. And then I'm like, hey, you want to get in? What I think in my head is I don't think in my head anymore, oh, that's embarrassing. I'm begging for work. I'm like, no, I am helping them. They need someone to stay on their ass to get in to schedule their sessions. And if they don't want to talk to me, they just will stop responding. So instead, I used to think all the time, this is so embarrassing. I'm like begging for work. And I'm like, dude, they need that accountability. So there's nothing wrong with that. You're offering your service to someone, so don't be afraid to do it. So I want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to wrap up here. What does the future of In Motion look like for the rest of 2023 and into 2024?
Yeah, so for the rest of 2023, I would like to hire another part-time PT. That is really the high priority on my list. We have a lot of really great things that are in the woodwork with a lot of our athletes coming up for the fall. So we're looking forward to that. And I really want to take a deep dive with my team and plan for 2024. And I want them to be involved with it. And we did a good job of kind of staying ahead of some things for this year. That 2023 was obviously a lot more successful than 2022. But I think 2024 can be even more successful. And I think with the contributions of our team members, it will amplify what we're able to do, that we really have the right people in the right positions. And now we just need to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really, I love that you always are including your team as well, because I think that's a great attribute of a leader. And I think it's also helpful. Right? We have really smart people that work with us, and listening to other people. And then we don't have to, sometimes the feeling of we're doing it all is self-fulfilling a little bit. It's like we do that to ourselves because we don't take input from other people. And so then we're like, I'm the only one doing it. But did we ever ask for input from other people? So we have to get out of our own ego sometimes. So you're doing an incredible job. For those, your final thoughts, like for those women out there that are maybe new in business or even years in business and are really at that breaking point where they're just like beat down, they're worried about everything in their business and they feel like burning it to the ground, or just like letting it, hoping tomorrow they'll wake up and it will disappear. Because I think we've all been there. Like, what words of advice would you give these women?
Yeah, I was there just a few months ago. My mom literally looked at me. She goes, do you want to do this anymore? And I said, honestly, I don't know. And what I did is I took a deep look inside myself and I really reevaluated what are the things that are important to me? What does success look like for me? And then how do I create a roadmap to get there? And then joining a group of other people that are going through similar struggles. You are not alone. You are not the only person having these problems. It is everybody. And I feel like social media can paint this picture of everyone's running a successful business. Everyone's making six figures. Everyone's doing this. And that's not true at all. And there are a lot of really smart people, a lot of really hardworking people who are struggling. And if you just ask for help, you can come out on the other side successfully.
That's such great advice. And both of us, to be honest, are proof of that, because I was at a breaking point as well. And I wanted to literally go work in an Amazon fulfillment center for the rest of my life. And what's amazing is it doesn't have to take years. It's like being a therapist or a trainer. Like, people are not going to see results overnight. It's not, oh, I joined and here, but you've made this transition happen in less than 7 months. Less than 7 months. Which, and if you think about how long you were struggling before that, now granted we had COVID, but I bet you would have struggled anyways. Like, I bet you would have, even if COVID certainly threw a wrench in everyone's plans, but you probably would have gotten pregnant again. And then you would have been like in this burnout stage. Excuse me. What I tell people is, the sooner you make the decision to ask for help, the sooner you can be on the road to recovery. And in 7 months, you're in like a totally different place, and you're like happy and smiling and went on vacation. And it's been and now this means like the next 7 months are just going to be even better.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. I do. I feel like a completely different person. My family can probably attest to that as well, but I am a lot less stressed. I'm a lot less overwhelmed, and I'm doing a better job of just compartmentalizing. And if something's not going well at work, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that's what's happening right now. And
it's an action
and
going on.
Yeah. So it's been a wonderful transformation, and it's a silver lining, right? That I had to struggle. I had to hit close to the bottom to recognize, hey, I can't do this alone. I need something. I need to figure out something different. And I wish I had done it sooner.
Most people say that, but we didn't. But now you're here.
And I needed to experience it.
Yeah.
I needed to experience it to then, now it feels so much better that I experienced that setback, that I've proved to myself that I can overcome it, and that there's a level of confidence there that I've been able to gain in myself.
Yeah. And it's also a testament to you putting in the work, right? And now it's like, I always equate things back to the human body, because I think we as business owners can relate to that, because that's what we do. You know how when we tell our patients like they have faulty mechanics, or they like have this limp, or the way they stand, but they don't ever recognize it until we point it out to them. So now we're like, hey, you've gotten so much better. You're actually recognizing when you're falling back into those patterns, and you can nip it in the butt faster. And so like when they're like, oh, I'm leaning on or carrying babies. Okay, let's not do that. Let's hold them in the front, or whatever the case may be. It's the same thing. When you realize, I got out of that from a business perspective, from being overworked and underappreciated and overscheduled. When you recognize that you might be leaning back into those same systems, you're like, oh, no, I'm not going down that road again. And so you just stop it faster before you get inundated and you're overwhelmed, right? So that's the way it's learning business is the same way we learned how to be a good physical therapist, right? It just takes a little time. And we're all smart, really incredibly smart, intelligent women. We're badass, smart women. So we can learn how to do this. And then we just have the skill set and the accountability from the rest of the community to say, we got you. Like, we're here for you. And so I'm so happy to have you in the group. I think you've been like a tremendous asset. And I'm so excited to see what 2024 has in line with you. So if people are listening to this and maybe have family, friends in the Long Island area and are looking for treatment, where can they find you? Or other business owners that want to go check out like your page and stuff, where can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find us at In Motion PTNY on basically everything social media. We're getting more frequently posting on there, that we're getting a little bit more active now that I have time to commit to that stuff. And you can check out our website at inmotionptny.com.
Perfect. And we're going to link all of that stuff up in the show notes. And so, Laura, thank you so much for being on this episode. I think that was a really great I think it's just really encouraging, like you're sharing your story so that other women can see themselves in you. And I think it'll resonate with a lot of women and just show that there's like another way. There is another way. I like to tell people I don't have the answer. I have an answer. And I think that I will never say that I have the answer. Like I'll never say that because everyone's reality is different than mine. But I have an answer that could work for a lot of women. And if someone's willing to put in the work to get to there, I think it's worth it. So I'm so happy to be able to work with you. And hopefully I'll be able one day, I have family that live on Long Island. So one day when we get back up to New York, I'll pop into your clinic. So thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, my friends, bye for now.